TV trash. Nostalgia can be a bitch, huh? So last time we went over the terrible British series Days Like These, which was just that 70s show run through a Xerox machine. Or maybe through Doofenshmirtz's Copyinator. The sad irony is, Days Like These was copying a TV show that itself wasn't exactly an original concept. Let's be honest, that 70s show was essentially a retool of Happy Days with the setting fast-forwarded 20 years. It's not hard to see why someone would think of remaking Happy Days, because all of us in some way love to romanticize the past, wanting to remember the good old days. And Happy Days was one of the shows that really catered to this mindset. It's just funny that someone thought to remake that concept, this time set in a decade of complete social turmoil. I mean, at least they could have tried to set a new show in a decade known for huge economic prosperity, in addition to fashion trends that people look back upon now with absolute ridicule and disdain. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. That 80s show. She's a face. From the department of let's run this concept so far into the ground that we hit magma, that 80s show premiered in January of 2002, while that 70s show was in the middle of its 4th season. The new show aired on the same Fox block as such memorable hits like Grounded for Life and Titus, the latter of which saw its infamous cancellation that spring and was replaced by Your Day Is Still Coming. For now, let's see just how much that 80s show is going to make us pine for the 1990s. Okay, I may be a little confused here. Anyone know what decade this show is taking place in? I mean, just wow! Every sledgehammer used during Triple H's reign of terror was more subtle than this. Hell, rockin' with Judy Jetson was more subtle.
So, you must be the new guy, huh? What are you, a stockbroker? Drive a new Beamer? I'm the struggling musician who wrote 2 ballads about her last week.
I'm not the stereotypical 80s guy. Am I not making it clear enough that I'm the one the audience is meant to like? So yeah, our main character Corey shows up at this show's version of Arnold, dealing with the fact that his ex-girlfriend is now just out flirting with every guy out there because that's just so independent of her. Which makes me think just by looking at her that she's going to change her name to Samantha Jones in 15 years. And then he goes home to whine about his ruined love life to his sister Katie and his father Jack Malloy. I'm sorry, I mean R.T. Howard.
Mother and I split up.
That happened 2 years ago.
I know, I just love saying it.
Nope, he's Jack Malloy. Apparently, Jeff Pearson is doomed to play boorish, womanizing asswipe fathers for his whole career. We're also introduced to Roger, who lives with Corey's family and might as well have yuppie tattooed on a body part somewhere.
I deserve success.
I deserve success.
Personal power and growth are tools.
Personal power and growth are
Please, God, no more!
While he wants to be the next Gordon Gekko, Corey works in a music store where he now has to deal with this new co-worker, Tuesday, who has hair that the Hubble telescope can track. And yes, she's played by future Supergirl star Shyler Lee.
You may find yourself behind the wheel of a large
I deserve a large automobile.
with a beautiful wife.
I deserve a beautiful wife with beautiful breasts. How did I get here?
We're not even 10 minutes into the pilot, and I think you can automatically tell one of this show's biggest problems: how one-dimensional its humor is. The fact that that 70s show took place in the 1970s was never the primary source of jokes in the show, at least not for the first couple of seasons. There were some references to the decade, like including Gerald Ford and Rocky Johnson, but for the most part the show focused on its main characters and their personalities. That 80s show, right from the start, throws it in your face that it takes place in the 1980s. For almost all of this pilot's runtime, it's the setting, not the characters, that are trying to establish the humor. And it's just done so in among the laziest ways possible. If you think I'm overreacting to this, let's take up what's becoming one of my newest bits and compare theme songs. Not a good sign when the guy who composed your theme song for a show about the 80s was probably born in 1995. The lightning rod for all of this is Katie, a college dropout who spends all her time watching MTV and Dynasty, the latter of which she uses to get people involved in drinking games. Even though the Bob Newhart Show was the TV show of choice for that in the 80s, but that was a 70s show, so we can't mention its existence. Oh yeah, and there's also this joke about the ex-girlfriend going by and constantly hitting on Katie because, you know, lesbian sexual harassment is funny!
She kissed you? Oh my god, where did this happen? Were you guys in the shower?
It was just a kiss. Nothing happened. Besides the kiss.
You just struggle at first, knowing it was forbidden?
This guy is like the bad beta version of Barney Stinson. Actually, I doubt even Neil Patrick Harris could make this character fun.
A steady chicken holidays equal nothing but cash. And I ain't about that, bro.
Bro?
It's a new thing I'm trying out. Besides, if you wait until the end of Valentine's Day, any girl who doesn't have someone comes running after you, my man.
Bro.
Ooh, thanks.
Anyone thinking up Vince Russo jokes, form a line over there.
Still doing that bro thing?
Just working out the kinks. Thinking about adding a gesture.
Kill him before he spreads, Corey!
All I'm saying is that you have hit the jackpot.
What would I do without you, bro?
Too late, we're all doomed! Also, the bumpers in between scenes are just shots of album covers that say where the next scene is taking place. How lazy are you when you half-ass a bit from Super Friends? Anyway, the rest of the pilot involves Corey going to work for his father's marketing firm and then quitting all in the third act. As if this could have been the plot of a whole episode on its own, but that would require effort to write. After shoehorning in another forced reference that the show is in the 80s, Corey goes back to work at the record store where he finds Tuesday isn't that awful to look at when she lets her hair down.
Could you just admit that what I said made you take your hair down?
Oh, look, you're so important to me that one little cutting remark from you made me change my whole image, Captain Corporate.
Start the pull up right now as to when they start banging! Now, the rest of the episodes did dial back the 80s jokes somewhat and started focusing more on the characters. And to be honest, there was some potential in doing that, because the 80s was a time period with a lot of cultures and styles clashing with one another. And with the different styles each character was given, there was the chance to craft stories around these different cultures trying to mix with one another. This was something Happy Days did really well, as a key element of the show was how a rebellious individual like Fonzie could fit in with a clean-cut conservative family like the Cunninghams, and how both sides learned from one another. So a show where the punk rockers of this time period tried to mix with the image-conscious yuppies could have made for some great comedy and character development. But no, the main focus for the start of the series is highlighting the whole I can't stand you but I really want to bang you angle between Corey and Tuesday. Because it's not like there was a show that aired in the 80s that did that concept so much better or anything. And so how long before they finally go through with these two hooking up? News Radio still beat you guys by 5 episodes. I almost get the feeling the creators knew the show was not going to last by pulling that twist so soon. Sure enough, the remaining episodes focus mainly on Corey and Tuesday's relationship, even though the two clearly had no chemistry whatsoever. And no surprise, the show was not picked up for the coming fall. And thus, that 80s show went the way of bleach-stained jeans, just like it deserved to. This thing was actually made with the aid of that 70s show's creators, Mark Brazil and Terry Turner. It's like they came up with a bad parody of their previous work, sent it into Fox on a dare, never expecting it to get greenlit, and then had to scramble to actually make something when their bluff got called. As a result, we got something that was too outlandish in areas there shouldn't have been work put into, and too dull in places where there should have. The pilot focuses too much on ridiculing the setting over developing the characters, and the remainder of the show does nothing interesting. When I could list you shows from the 80s that were more crazy in the fun way and thus more entertaining than a show about the 80s, that makes for a bigger failure than New Coke. See you next time on TV Trash.